So you do use the metro system?
Yeah, as I said, public transport in this city is really, really good, and so you just feel a lot more relaxed when you're not in the car. You don't have to use your horn. This one goes past our place, goes past my office, just go anywhere on it.
And this is the oldest line on the continent, isn't it?
This is the oldest line on the continent, yeah. It was built, finished in 1896 for the World Exposition, which was basically held in the area just behind where we're going, behind Euro Square, the city park.
And that year was very significant because it was...
Yeah, it was 1,000 years of the Hungarians arriving in the Carpathian Basin.
It's wonderful, there's that metro connection.
Yeah, that's how you go. Well, they were probably trying to catch it. Euro Square.
What metro stop have we come from?
Well, we've just come out, it's Hero Square. So this is the end of Ondrashy Avenue, which is basically the avenue that the metro goes underneath all the way along it. We've got the two great big museums, Museum of Fine Arts and the Museum of Travelling Exhibitions, or Palace of Exhibitions. Here we have all these statues with all the Hungarians who came to the Carpathian Basin in 896, and all the kings and queens of the Hungarian Empire and the Austro-Hungarian Empire sort of behind them, in between the columns. It's like a really nice centre, and we live probably only just as the crow flies, about 500 metres in there.
It's an amazing spot to live.
And the zoo, where we do a lot of work, is just over the back of it. If that building wasn't there, the Museum of Fine Arts, and you'd see the zoo. Okay. So it's a sort of really big hub in town, and it's a nice place to be.
Well, the weather has turned really cold and bleak, but it's actually very appropriate when you come out to the Zorba Park Museum. These are all the old Soviet-built statues depicting Hungary's Soviet-dominated past. It almost feels like it's going to fall on you. It's interesting that other Eastern European countries, even Russia, are choosing to ignore this part of their history, selling off these statues or having them destroyed. But Hungary's actually celebrating them in a strange sort of way. I mean, this is a very Spartan setup, but it is very interesting, and it does give you a sort of a picture of what life would have been like in the Soviet-dominated times.
It's got quite a long history now. I mean, the Magyar tribe came from somewhere in the east, Mongolia, I'm not sure where, 1100 years ago. So that's a very, very exotic influence for Middle Europe. But that's basically the people that live here that founded this country. Then since then, of course, you've got this series of invasions. You've got the Turkish occupation for centuries, then, of course, the Habsburgs. So the culture's very much built on influences from outside. So someone coming from Australia, I mean, I think it'd be reasonably welcoming of a very different perspective, and they're used to sort of bringing things together and having a sort of hybrid culture. So you've always got this vigorous new culture, new syntheses of influences that look very different. And Anthony fits in well there. And he's made a study of Hungarian architecture, of Károly Kós, the 20th century architect.
That's really tackling something, isn't it? Because he's a bit of a folk hero, isn't he?
He is now, and I think Anthony's been pretty basic to getting the interest back. Kós did the zoo, and Anthony's been working on that. He said that the elephant house, the new elephant house he's building, yesterday he said to me, it looks like a giant cane toad. So that's an interesting example, and slightly facetious example of the sort of hybridity. I mean, I don't know how many people around here would recognise it as a cane toad.
has a number of thermal springs, and for centuries Hungarians have enjoyed the medicinal qualities of these wonderful pools and spas. These are the central city baths. I've just had a pounding from one of these Hungarian masseurs, but then I've been able to soak it off in the spa, and it's just beautiful. 37 degrees in the autumn sunshine, gorgeous.
I was director of a language school, and just in my free time I went along to the university and taught this one class. And I did this for years. And then my current appointment came out of that I was affiliated with the university in this way for a long time. And when they had a position for an Australian lecturer, then they asked me 2 years ago.
And are you enjoying that work?
Oh, this is my best job.
Is it?
Best job I've ever had.
Because it's not just literature, is it?
I have lots of freedom in determining what content I teach. I could teach anything in culture, literature, history, anything. So it's up to me. But my interest is primarily in literature. So therefore, I build my courses around literature, and then I bring other stuff to support.
Like you said to us this week, you'll be showing The Chant of Jimmy Blacksmith.
That's right.
So I guess you've been studying the book.
Yes.
And so you're showing the film as...
That's right, yeah. That's right. And students will read background information about that period in Australian history. Ma'am, were you able to read the book? Yes. And what did you think about it?
Yeah, it addresses quite a lot of big topics, like from cultural shock to sexual harassment and the Jewish problem and the problems within the family itself.
It's not really about Australia. The part about Australia is really not what I was most interested in, but the relationship of the mother and the children.
And all the time I couldn't make up my mind if I should like her father or not.
Who are some of the authors that you particularly like? Have you got a couple of favourites?
I like Janet in a Hospital, Kate Granville, Elizabeth Joly, Helen Garner.
Yeah. Now tell me about Anthony. It seems that he's really become quite an acclaimed architect.
It seems that way, yes.
Are you surprised?
No. I always knew he had great talent because he was good as an artist. He was very creative. You know, you could see in his cooking. You know, he's creative in everything. He's a good architect because he's got the creative side, but he's also got a mathematical side or a precise side to it. That, you know, the two coming together makes a good result.
What sort of reaction do you see Anthony getting from the community and perhaps the architectural community as an Australian? Is it confusing to people?
Yeah, some people don't understand why would you want to not live in a nice place like Australia. But I think on a professional level, it worked for Anthony to live here because his buildings are visible. He is a specialty. He often gets asked to go on Hungarian television and participate in talk shows and all sorts of professional roundtable discussions. His talents are being used in many ways, and he stands out as the Australian architect who speaks Hungarian and does wonderful buildings.